looks like things have calmed down.
Well, we started off this way because I wanted to show you exactly. This is a North Florissant Road, and this is a Canfield Drive. And if you make a left here and you turn that way, that is the road where the shooting of Michael Brown took place. And this is wanted to set the scene about how this evening started with the protest. And it was starting peacefully. There were families out here, children out here, and they were starting to make their way toward the command center, which is probably about a half mile or so up this road. And then the police started pushing the crowd back, and this is where I want to bring in Steve Kastenbaum, who's been here throughout most of the night. Steve, you've been telling me, and now you've been talking about it on air, but now we can kind of start showing people exactly what you've been talking about. But you were just up at the beginning of the night. Yeah. You can see the McDonald's down there in the distance. You were in that area, right?
Yeah, we were at that McDonald's back there. The parking lot next to the McDonald's is where the media had been staging for the curfews, and we could see off down a little bit beyond us that there was a confrontation going on between the group of hundreds of protesters that had marched toward the command post at the Target Center parking lot. We could see the blue lights. We could see smoke coming in our direction. We knew something was going on, and then we heard the telltale sounds of those smoke canisters and tear gas canisters being fired on the crowd. Now, we had just watched this group of people marching in that direction, and
at this point it's peaceful. Everything looks calm.
Absolutely peaceful. Obviously, they're angry. They still want answers about the shooting of Michael Brown. They're not happy with the way they feel they've been treated by police throughout all of this. But for the most part, we saw peaceful people. There were even families in there with little children marching in that direction, many of them with their hands up, using that now familiar chant, hands up, don't shoot. So as they were coming back to us, that's when it got extremely chaotic. We don't know what triggered it, but the smoke canisters, the tear gas started flying in every direction. Canisters fell right at our feet. Our cameraman, Ken Tillis, was actually hit by one of these canisters. One of the other canisters of tear gas literally bounced off of the vehicle I was in as I was trying to get our gas masks out, and the car was enveloped in smoke. So it's a very chaotic situation.
And we're talking about a half mile, Poppy, as things moved that way and then started coming back this way. You can see here, and I don't know if you can zoom in on the roadway here, but there's a bunch of bricks along the road, shattered glass as well. And Steve, you're telling me this was a barricade that some of the protesters, as they were being pushed back, set up and put up in the middle of the roadway.
Exactly. It was a very intense situation here because we saw several hundred police, heavily armed, riot gear, pushing the crowd back as they were forming a line behind their armored vehicles. And all the while using not just smoke and tear gas, but we also heard flash grenades going off in the crowd. Several demonstrators refused to move. They stood their ground. They weren't aggressive. They were just standing their ground. They were defying orders to move back, You're too close to us. And we did shoot some video of one man who was shot by rubber bullets. Ken Tillis was shooting this as it happened, literally feet away from him. But all that time, there was a body of demonstrators that was not dispersing. They were standing their ground. They were defying this order from the riot police to disperse.
How big do you think this group is?
It's hard to say. It was in the dozens, possibly 100 to 200, but no more than that. And they were approximately 75 to 100 yards away from the riot police. So there was a significant distance between the police lines and the protesters' lines, and it would ebb and flow. There would be moments where there was calm and you didn't hear any canisters going off, and then it would start up again. The warnings would be heard on the loudspeakers: disperse or you face arrest. They didn't disperse, they'd fire another round of smoke and tear gas at them, and there was a lot. I mean,
let me show one thing here, because I want to come back and talk to Steve about the gunfire that we've been hearing. But we are on the back side of this police line. I'm going to get Steve to kind of show. If you look over here in front of me, this is where the back of the police line is here, that has moved down or up. This is facing north here on North Florissant Road, and the SWAT teams have moved up this way. The police lines are down there, and this is where authorities are now focused on, and is that area. We cannot get past them at this point. And police here are now telling us that they've been hearing more gunfire, reports of gunfire. It's not confirmed at this point, but that is the area they're looking for, and they've got patrol cars and those armored vehicles into that area. As one of the officers here told us a little while ago, this is a situation where you cannot send just any patrol car into at these situations with gunshots. Obviously, gunfire can penetrate these cars, and they say that's why they're using the stronger vehicles to be able to protect themselves from the gunfire. But so let me bring in Steve Kastenbaum again, because Steve, when I first rolled up here, I did hear the ricochet of several gunshots. In all, throughout the evening, how much of this have you heard tonight?
It's hard to say. When we first arrived here tonight to just prepare for coverage through the overnight, because we've been working here through the overnight hours during the curfew and the previous evenings when we saw some of the looting taking place, we were parked just over there with our other crew that's out here shooting video tonight as well. Another producer, Chuck Condor, has been on the air talking about this. And while we were situated there, there was the unmistakable sound of gunshots, and we saw a muzzle blast. You could see the flashes, muzzle flashes. So it was clear that even though the overwhelming majority of the people who were here, there were families out here, people who live in these side streets were protesting peacefully. There were a few bad actors in the crowd. So it was a very tense night.
All right, thanks, Steve. And we'll continue to monitor the situation and talk to these guys. Poppy?
And Ed, I want you to keep Steve there with you, because I just want to really clarify for our viewers, because that's significant what Steve Kastenbaum is reporting. It's significant that he says that he actually witnessed shots fired at police. Can we clarify that with Steve, that he did indeed, he witnessed shots fired at the police there, correct? I mean, I know that there also were some believed fireworks going off as well. So I just want to clarify for our viewers the difference here, that both may have been happening, but I'm not on the ground there, and you and Steve are. So Steve, tell us exactly what you saw.
Yeah, and we're talking about the shots that you heard. Were they directed at police, you think?
The initial shots earlier in the evening you're talking about, the ones we heard over here, no, we don't believe so. There were groups of people milling about in different areas, and that we saw, those muzzle flashes that Chuck Condor saw, were in a parking lot in a back area off of the main drag here. So no, we don't believe that those initial shots were directed at
some of the
what shots did
subsequent
he
shots.
see?
When we came back up here, as we were advancing along with this confrontation, there was a moment when we reached this spot where everybody hit the deck because there was the unmistakable sound of gunshots.
And the ones you saw were the initial initial muzzle
correct.
shots.
Earlier in the evening.
And that's really what started all of this.
I wouldn't even say it started all of it. I think it made police very aware of the fact that there were some bad actors in the crowd here, that there were some people who were not here just to peacefully protest, or at least were armed. You know, they were aware of the fact, you know, our own security were telling us, you know, that this is the case here. There are definitely people, we don't know how many, and again, I really want to reiterate that the overwhelming majority of the people who were here were protesting peacefully. They had brought out their children, you know, were taking part in this demonstration here. So I can't stress that enough. It was a small number of people, but nonetheless, there were some bad actors here in the crowd who, for whatever reason, came here with guns.
And we're still some time away. I don't know how far away we are from the official curfew.
We're 45 minutes away from the official curfew, and we should say that behind us right now, it seems relatively quiet, but
it has been quiet the last few minutes.
The SWAT teams, what has happened here is they've fanned out, we're told by local police officials, they fanned out into the side streets because a lot of the people who were taking part in this demonstration, who were standing up to their police lines, have sort of scattered off into the side streets. And we hear, you know, the teams going through the crowd, going through the side streets. We hear the announcements periodically. Occasionally we hear another sound of a gas canister being fired.
So we hear that. So, you know, still very chaotic.
And
still trying to get a sense on just how much of that gunfire has been. Go ahead.
Ed, before you go with Steve, I know it's hard because for our viewers here, Steve doesn't have what we call an IFBN, meaning he can't hear me, so Ed has to relay what I'm asking to Steve. But I just want to be clear, because we've been reporting this through the night from what we've been told by Steve, but I know that he heard shots fired at multiple times in different locations throughout the evening. However, did he indeed witness shots fired? Did he witness them, see them, shots fired at police as we have been told? Is that what he saw?
The initial ones, those initial gunfire, Poppy's asking, that initial gunfire, That was not directed at police, as you've said. Did you see anything directed at police?
We did not witness anything directed at police. In fact, earlier in the evening, we saw a repeat of what we saw last night, which was police from several municipalities, primarily St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department officers, were lining the street here in front of storefronts. And we saw this last night. While they had riot gear with them, there's a vehicle backing up behind us, sorry. They were not wearing their riot gear. Let's move over to the side a little bit. They were not even wearing their riot gear. They were standing, just standing watch over private property here as they did last night. And there was very little, if any, interaction between police and the crowd. You know, I think the crowd here knew, because of what happened a few nights ago, the looting, that the police were here to protect private property along either side of this street. You know, the community members here were very upset about the people that looted. We spoke to them the next day, the community members, and they told us what they witnessed was unforgivable, some of them said.
And I've been amazed, because I was here earlier in the evening when people were starting to show up, and I was amazed by a lot of the roadways actually into this stretch of the road had been blocked off way up there at the north and here at the south, and even off along the side roads that people were taking, and people were parking their cars to come participate in the demonstration tonight, and all the side roads that kind of feed into this main stretch of road were jam-packed with cars of people trying to get in here. When I got back here tonight, a lot of those cars were gone. A lot of those people were heading out of here.
In fact, there was definitely a different tactic being employed here tonight. Last night, there were lots of vehicles parading up and down the avenue here right up until the curfew happened. And those vehicles had lots of people piled on top of them as they were demonstrating. And it was clearly a very unsafe situation. I mean, you know, we were saying over and over again that we were concerned that going to get hurt. Somebody crossing the street might get hit by one of the cars, might fall off one of the vehicles. And it was clear to us that the police very early in the evening were not allowing vehicles into this area, probably because of that, after seeing that. So it was mostly people on foot. They were walking in here.
Now we're seeing another line of police cars making their way. Kind of a reinforcement here, Poppy. I don't know if they're going to go beyond the line, but this is another line of police cars that are coming into the area. The helicopter that is hovering over the neighborhood now is just over our head. It had been further up north along the road. So I don't know if that means they're focusing on a different area in this neighborhood. Kind of hard to say here at this point, given our vantage point, Poppy.
Absolutely. And again, as we just remind our viewers, Steve and Ed, thank you for that. We are watching this unfold as they are watching this unfold. And we are going to be back after a very quick break. We're going to bring in a state senator there from Missouri on the phone to get her reaction to all of this. The latest breaking news from Ferguson, Missouri, on the other side of a quick break.